Hey, MCE crew, over the last few years, we've seen a lot of looting going on in the country. Turn on the TV, there's a riot over here in this city, there's a riot in that city, Target's getting looted. Now they're going into the Walgreens, the Walmart, the Burger King even. And looters are looting. But let me tell you something. Those people that you saw on television, they can't hold a candle to the looting that's been done at the highest levels of this nation by people who use all types of pseudo complex language and dress in suits and ties. All right. You want to see who the real looters are in this country? Turn on C-SPAN right now, and I guarantee you will see one of them if it's airing coverage of the Congress. The President of the United States, he's done a great job of helping to loot this country over the past 50 years that he's been a welfare recipient, basically, because he's never had a real job. No, what they do cannot compare to what the people do to make this world work. So we're going to get into some of the worst financial advice given by a major media outlet in a minute, because they're complicit in this as well. The media could have long ago taken a stance whereby they sought to educate, not to inflame or to just entertain the public. Now, I'm not saying it had to be compulsory, but I guarantee you, if you turn on CNBC right now and watch that fool Kramer, he's giving out bad advice. Okay, he's not telling you the fundamentals of investing. He's just throwing up stocks. Oh, yeah, I like this one. Oh, I like that one. And look, I can't prove it, but it just seems like he's engaged in some massive pump and dump operation sponsored by the NBC Corporation. He'll get on and he'll talk about a stock. People will buy. What does he do, though? Anybody ever track that? Does he sell? So remember, Klaus Schwab said, you're going to own nothing and be happy. Well, he was half right. You're going to own nothing and you're not going to be happy if you continue to pay attention to these gatekeepers in the media, and if you take anything that 99% of these politicians say as gospel. Jerome Powell, he sat up there and lied for almost 2 years and said inflation was transitory. I told you on this channel, I've never even walked past the Federal Reserve building, I don't think. But I told you on this channel, plenty of other people told you, plenty of other people outside that corporate media structure told you that inflation was not transitory. It was here to stay and it was going to increase. And damn if it hasn't done that. You didn't hear that from the gatekeepers. You didn't hear that from Jerome Powell. You didn't hear that from Janet Yellen. You heard the opposite. So the chickens have come home to roost. Now, what do I mean by well, look, Klaus Schwab said it. I didn't. You're going to own nothing and be happy. Well, what he meant by that is you're going to own nothing. And you better be happy, because if you're not, no one cares. And you're already seeing that occur. Let me give you a couple of examples, and then we're going to get to the absolute worst financial advice ever given out by an actual some organization that sets itself up as a financial brain trust. But before we get into that, can you believe? Now, part of what they mean by you're going to own nothing is this. You buy a new Toyota. Actually, you buy a Toyota after 2018. Do you know they have a feature built in where if you have a remote starter on that Toyota, that after you've owned it for 3 years, you'll start having to pay a subscription service to start your car? That's right. Now, mind you, there's no special technology involved in this. The signal from the key fob to the door and the engine is simply a radio signal. It's naturally occurring within the electromagnetic spectrum. It's the same type of thing that if you bought a cheap set of walkie-talkies from Walmart, same thing they would use. And you're not charged a subscription to talk on a walkie-talkie, right? You buy it, and then that's it. Talk on it as much as you want. Well, Toyota has said that they're going to start their subscription service with allowing you to start the car that you purchased. It'll be a subscription service to be able to do that remotely. BMW goes one better. You know, BMW has said that they're going to make heated seats in the car you bought. Heated seats are not only going to be an option that you pay more for, that's also going to be a subscription. That's right. So the heating element, whatever the hell powers the heated seats and makes them warm, that's already in the car that you purchased. Okay? But in order to use the feature, you're going to have to, per BMW, I'll link to all this, you're going to have to pay a subscription service for that. You're going to have to keep paying them over and over and over again. They want that recurring source of revenue, okay, like Netflix. Only problem is, I don't have a problem with Netflix doing it because they own movie studios. They own all types of complicated equipment. They hire actors and they put on different types of, rehearsals. It's a big money operation and they own it. And if I want it, sure, I'll pay a subscription for that. But I'm not going to pay a subscription for something I own. So see, you'll own nothing. And it's not just with cars. It's starting also with appliances. Now, here's the problem with all of this. Once I own something, if I decide I want to keep it for 20 years, which I actually have done with a car, if I decide I want to keep it for that length of time, then it starts to cost less with each year that I hold on to it. That's impossible if I'm saddled with subscription services that, if I don't have, won't allow me to use certain features of the car that's in my garage, the car that I no longer have a note on, the car that I have a title for. Okay, so this is ridiculous, but this is, you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna see it in appliances like your washer, your dryer. Okay, again, that is antithetical to owning and then having whatever it is you bought cost less. No, you're going to be saddled with a constant cost if these hooligans, these looters of your pocketbook have their way. Now, everybody got all upset when they aired the looters on TV, and they should have, because, looters that's not a good activity to engage in, because a lot of times what's happening is, crowd psychology builds up. So they're not targeting just the Fortune 500, which would be wrong of them to do. It's not right to steal. But a lot of times, mom and pop, they get mixed up in it. And they have far fewer resources. And you burn down their restaurant or their store, it's difficult, if not impossible, for them to come back. So it shouldn't be done, period. I don't care if you're looking at a big retailer who's providing jobs in the neighborhood. Okay, I remember in 2015, when we had a riot here in the Baltimore area, in Baltimore City. You probably saw it on CNN, and they burned down a CVS drugstore. A CVS drugstore that was located in the community and served a lot of elderly people because it was adjacent to a senior building. So who got hurt? It wasn't CNN. CVS. They're still in business. It wasn't the shareholders, really, because, it's a blip on the radar as far as the stock is concerned. The people that got hurt were the employees that worked there, who were from the community, and the people that needed that CVS as a convenient location to pick up their prescriptions, get a little over-the-counter stuff, maybe a bag of chips and a soda so they can have a snack that night. That's who that hurt. Okay, so even though it targeted the big boys, didn't hurt them. Looters are bad for our society, and they should be dealt with very harshly. And I believe that looters that are at the highest levels of government, they should have the same judicial fate on them. So what is being looted by the big wigs? Well, I've told you before that I believe what's going on is the powers that be, they are, getting while the getting's good. And they're planning on jumping out of the plane with parachutes before they run it into the ground. So let's take Social Security, for example. And I know you might be a long way from receiving this, but let's just take it as an example. All right, so you have people who are relying on that. Okay, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. All of those programs are virtually broke anyway and on borrowed time. But as this government will not acknowledge the truth about inflation, because if they did, it would mean that they've got seniors out there in these entitlement programs who are so far underwater that it's unbelievable. I told you in a previous video about a guy I encountered who can no longer afford beef. He's on a $50 food allowance, a weekly food allowance at $50, okay? So he's cut beef out of his diet. He just can't afford it. So this is telling you where we are. One man, $50 a week, and there's certain things he can't afford. So part of the reason why this is happening is because Jerome Powell, the Fed, in league with the president and certain members of Congress, have resisted raising interest rates. Because when they do that, all of their cronies like Jamie Dimon over at JP Morgan, JP Morgan might not have this happen simply because interest rates going up is a positive for a bank because they can charge more for loans. But other friends like the Walton family over at Walmart, different corporate chieftains are resisting this need to raise interest rates because they don't want the stock market to suffer. Meanwhile, we at the middle class and lower economic levels are feeling the real brunt of this, okay? Because you have less money to put into assets, but you still should do that. Now, let's get on to what is the absolute worst financial advice given ever by a news service, financial news service, Bloomberg in particular. Do you know Bloomberg told people to come out, and the way to beat inflation or deal with it is for you to go out and spend your paycheck immediately. Just go on a buying spree. Now, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. What they may have been trying to say is something I've said here before. Lock in prices while you can on certain things, like food, okay? Something that you can't do without. But Bloomberg is saying, hey, you should take the advice of the Argentinians that we spoke of. Argentina, a place that suffered 50% inflation, okay? And let's backtrack for a minute. Inflation here is not 6.8%. It's over 14% because these clowns do not count energy and food, the two things that you interact economically with the most. That's not in that core inflation calculation that the news media touts all the time. I saw it somewhere, big red 6.8, total BS. Okay, it's much higher than that once you account for food and energy. So Bloomberg is out there saying, go spend whatever you got. Just buy it all. Cars, houses. This is the type of advice that I would expect some drunk at a casino to give. Okay, not an established financial media organization, unless what they're trying to do is use their heft, their market power, their mass appeal to just purposely miseducate the public. Yeah, you should be buying. You definitely want to transfer out of dollars, but why transfer out of dollars into a car or into, in a part of this article, they talked about buy that couch. Just go buy it. So they're encouraging you to transfer your dollars that are already losing about 1% in value every month. Transfer it out of there and put it into something that's going to depreciate even faster. They're not saying go out and buy assets like we say here. They're not saying go out and research and do your due diligence on commodities like gold and silver, which maintain their value, okay, as a way to hedge against inflation. They're not saying go out and maybe look into some rental real estate on the cheap, if you can get a bargain out there and start to create income and get appreciation off the property. They're not saying that. They're not saying, believe it or not, these people got famous because of the Bloomberg terminal, which allowed you to watch stocks. Okay, allowed these big boys on Wall Street to keep minute track of stock transactions. That's how Bloomberg made his money, with the Bloomberg terminal. It's like a little computer. And they are telling you to go out and buy a damn couch when they should be telling you, hey, this is how you evaluate a stock. And this is what you might want to do to avoid future taxation. You might want to look at a permanent life insurance policy to avoid some future taxation, because you know all the money we spent, you know taxes are going up. You know you need to buy assets that are going to appreciate and or generate income, or in the case of gold and silver, palladium, platinum, be able to preserve your buying power. Okay? And instead they say, hey, look, when you get your paycheck, just cash it. In fact, I'm surprised they didn't say, look, when you get your paycheck, ask your boss, can you take an extended lunch, because you got to go cash it immediately and start spending. If you follow Bloomberg's advice, you will own nothing and you won't be happy, I assure you. So that's what we've got going on right now. The other thing is, a lot of people are talking about, we're going to do something larger on this, but the Bitcoin, the dip that Bitcoin has taken. There was a football player who recently, I don't follow the NFL, but there was a football player who wanted to be paid in Bitcoin. So I'm interested to find out when he was paid, or if he was paid yet, because depending on when he was paid, he lost a lot of money. If he's been paid yet, he might not have been. This shows you the kind of issue with the volatility of Bitcoin. Yeah, it's sexy to be able to say, oh, I got paid in Bitcoin, but not if it drops in value 3 hours after you got paid. Then that means you got paid a lot less. So it's still very, very volatile. Okay. And I'm not saying that, you do your due diligence. If you're comfortable with it, fine. But I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. It's too volatile, and I'm not into losing money. Okay. So there are some advantages we've talked about with crypto. I see it having a place in some form or fashion as we move forward into the mid part of the 21st century. But I don't see 10, 30 coins or however many they have out there now. I don't see that situation persisting. So that's just as an aside. Look, if you want to be happy, you got to own stuff, okay? Assets. So turn off the news, because they're trying to bamboozle you, and start to do your research. Start to tap into sources like Zero Hedge, for example. ZeroHedge.com. Check them out. They're not paying me. I just rely on them as a source of information. Start to do your own due diligence, stack assets. That's the only way that you're going to prosper as we move toward 2030. It's the only way, okay? Otherwise, you're going to be a ward of the state. And you see how they're treating people now. You're going to be a ward of the state. And I wish I had given this advice. I wish I had been in a situation to give the guy that's getting the $50 food allowance per week, give that guy this advice way back when. Maybe he would be in a different situation. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.